Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
The French president said he will ban social media use for kids under 15 years old. What do you think of that? That is an objectively nice, good idea, and I support it. Good luck enforcing it though. How on earth are they gonna do that? Make it the platform's problem to sort out by announcing truly devastating fines for any company found to not be in compliance. Make the fines ratchet ever higher for every child found on the platform. Then just watch as Silicon Valley's best and brightest take a break from jerking themselves raw while looking at a vision board of them leading their own techno-fascist state a la Peter Thiel to implement means of keeping children off their platforms so they can keep collecting data and selling it to the highest bidder. Every social media platform pull out of France is the more likely outcome. It's going to happen here in the Netherlands as well. No phones until they're 12. No social media until 15. Same in Australia with social media for children under 16. The Australian one is pretty much a sham. They rolled it out so quickly that no one knows how it's supposed to work or even be enforced. Firstly, they need to first verify your age, and that means verifying the person, which is why they've so heavily been pushing the digital government ID thing. Now that means that your accounts are known and tracked, which is a pretty big privacy issue as everything is attached to you. Next, the issue of enforcement is that it solely relies on the social media company. So sometime in the next 6 months we have to convince the numbskulls of Elon and Zuckerberg to implement this system for us, otherwise they'll get fined. Bearing in mind that the last time that we threatened Zuckerberg he just shut off news media from Australian Facebook, Instagram for a couple days, and Elon has too many problems to list. I got no clue what happens with the TikTok verification. Not to mention that nobody wants to have these companies storing your digital ID either. Nobody wants the digital ID tracking all of their accounts, and none of these companies want to be forced into complying with our laws. Ban it for people over 60, too. My mom showed me a video of a monkey working a grill and said, "Oh my god, how are people gonna get jobs?" So yeah, AI videos are going to completely fry the brains of old people. Ban it for people 0 to 100. Great Aunt Margaret be ballin' on Instagram at 103. I'm 27, I grew up when social media was first exploding into things past Facebook and MySpace. Instagram, Snapchat, Tumblr, Twitter all felt like they were being released one after another in my middle school, high school era. Everyone was rapidly flocking to them all. I spent an abundant amount of time online as a result, and while I met some amazing people it definitely took away from my real life and my mental health at times. I believe social media being delayed to 15/16, or even potentially later, is a great idea. I hope it's possible to enforce it consistently. I believe it would help children in a number of ways. ETA, did not expect this to be a comment to gain ground. Many great points given in responses here. I agree algorithm-driven feeds were a terrible introduction, and I would credit that as being a huge step in social media's toxic path. Yes, parents should be responsible for supervising media intake, but what happens when stuff like Instagram's algorithms glitch and I see 9/11 from 7 different angles out of the blue when I never watch or share stuff like that? This is something parents literally can't control no matter how many roadblocks they put in. I believe this is where the government should be attempting to limit this feed style. Someone mentioned the later introduction would lead to worse addictions. Possibly the case, but what comes to my mind is literacy levels, and the fact that things like brain rot became so popular at a young age and so quickly at that. Now these things would be less likely to catch on. Potentially focusing, strengthening and developing minds to deal with it better when exposed. There's a lot of scientific research on social media from when I was in college, bachelor's in psychology, and let me tell you, none of it was very good. Anxiety, self-image, esteem issues, algorithms driving people into isolated communities. Not to mention the addiction, time lost and predatory practices. All terrible things realistically. I'm 32, I remember having some of these in college, but even Instagram was kind of a hipster app for photography. We had Facebook though, and that wasn't too bad. I think it started to get bad when instead of having a friends list of people you knew, you could invite everyone on the internet to view your page and content. Public profiles where people want to amass millions of followers is where shit went bad. Make that shit private and limit the amount of friends you can have, and a lot of the toxicity would go away. I would say algorithm-driven feeds were probably the worst introduction. When it was history-based you could catch up, and though not ideal was better than the rage-baiting algorithms. I agree. I had enough self-esteem problems while I was in middle and high school before social media was a thing. I can't imagine how bad it can be with social media added to the equation. We can put numbers on this. Teenagers are getting into fewer romantic relationships, have fewer friends, and more of them are suicidally depressed. It's real bad. Not to mention the eating disorders. My husband is an inpatient pediatrician and their lower acuity hospital is over half full of just eating disorders. On the other hand, I feel bad for the kids who get bullied relentlessly at school in real life and only have friends online because of it. I was one of those kids and my internet friends were the only thing stopping me from ending my life with all the bullying and isolation I dealt with otherwise. Exactly. The internet is a lifeline for kids in abusive homes. If I didn't have the internet as a kid who was very shy back then and enjoyed making friends online better than in person, I would have been much worse off. This is really about forcing people to use ID on internet. Banning kids of social media is just an excuse they use to achieve that. Correct, this is a Trojan horse for mass surveillance and control over the internet. The number of useful idiots screaming to be censored online will get what they deserve when they're facing real tyranny. Break the free internet at your own peril. Exactly. Politicians want to know what you say, what you think, what you watch, what you do, etc. East Germany would be proud. Planning, looking up protests, looking up abortion info, looking up guns, once the government gets its foot in the door other sites and ages will be added. Yep. As per usual, it's lawmakers using kids as an excuse to pass laws to control the people. Like how some places, be it certain states in the US, or even France recently, start banning access to porn sites. The UK also recently passed some law about it. It's not to protect kids, it never has been, it's just so they can implement mandatory online identification so they can better keep an eye on people. And while it certainly can take care of a lot of illegal matters, it's gonna be used as a tool to create profiles on individuals. It allows governments to know exactly who is doing what. And all that data is gonna also get sold to advertisers. They're gonna have nice little folders about everyone with the type of sites they visit, the type of content they consume, and just push ads that are 100% specific for you just based on the data they bought. You're right. The two main false arguments for limiting privacy and civil liberties have been protecting the children and combating terrorism for years now, and you never get those freedoms back. Unfortunately, considering some EU leaders have been praising China's social credit score, I'm afraid the ultimate intention of this is something much worse than personalized ads and more 1984 style of wrong-think control. The only truly sensible comment on this thread. Reading this comment section has made me feel like I'm in a fever dream. Why are so many people here either nuts or stupid? My question in response would be, what is social media? Sounds like a silly question, because everyone kind of knows what social media is: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, right? But if you're going to regulate access to it, you need to be able to clearly define what it is. And that's actually not as easy as it sounds. Is it any website that allows users to upload content and create accounts? Because Wikipedia falls under that category. I don't think banning 15, 16, 18, whatever age you pick year-olds from accessing Wikipedia is a worthwhile endeavor. News sites often have comment sections attached below the article. Are we going to ban kids from looking at the news? Is YouTube social media? Snapchat, WhatsApp, AO3, text messaging, an old-school forum for stamp collecting? Hell, Usenet. What exactly is the scope of what we're trying to limit access to here? As far as I can tell, this seems to be an idea built entirely on vibes. You can't just vaguely gesticulate at Instagram and say, we're talking about that. Not if you want to formulate a coherent, actionable policy. Valid point. People are venting their political and social opinions on LinkedIn, which boggles my mind. When hiring someone, I now check LinkedIn as well as Facebook and Instagram. I completely agree. I do think some regulation, prevention should occur, but having grown up as a teen in the MSN and games, allowing friends to chat online after school was largely positive. Where this line gets drawn seems impossible to define, and companies will modify themselves to keep the user base high. No skin off my baguette. No ash off my cigarette either. No foreskin off my penis too. Is that like banning porn for anyone under 18? How well does that work? I see it as like how the US prohibits alcohol in state parks. Sure, I can bring a flask and drink at my campsite and no one is going to give me any trouble, but if I am belligerently drunk, I have not recourse when they throw me out. Kids will use social media, but when they are accused of cyberbullying or post a video of them doing something stupid, they have no recourse when their account gets reported and deleted. It doesn't fix the whole problem, but I think it will help more than hurt. How well does that work? It doesn't. Even if they find a way to do it, the result will just be that children are driven to unregulated sites. Social media is a massive contributor to many negative and sometimes lethal trends spreading. Major contributor to decreased mental health and contributes to bullying outside of school. Edit, as to how it would be enforced, aside from forcing age controls that is enforceable on those apps, it's going to be hard to really monitor. That is correct, but I don't see how this relates to the actual question posed by the person you were replying to. They're asking how it will practically be enforced. Yes. So are underage drinking and drug use. How are those bans going? I agree that something must be done, but bans do not work. They only make the problem worse. But actually going after the companies and holding them accountable for their platforms and algorithms would be work and make the donor class angry that the stocks are going down, so easy political virtue signaling it is. It's a step in the right direction. Once you ban access, you can start working on fining providers. What you want to achieve is a separation between accidentally finding it and freely sharing and those that deliberately seek it out. You know how you can still go on tour to find everything you could possibly want. Not really prevalent among kids. Dude, you can't stop it. The only ones you could crack down on are the large sites who can be located. The smaller sites are impossible to track down. If you require people to report to the government if they want to visit a porn site, they will either use a VPN or go to more obscure sites. Furthermore, the more obscure sites are likely to be more dangerous and less likely to not be posting abusive content. We don't need a nanny state.